Hey, what's happening? It's your host Tinto, and before we get started on this weekend's episode, I'd like to give a shout to everybody that got me coffees, starting with Tijitire Bogus. Welcome back. And you came in hard with the coffees. Your comment there reads, I had been MIA, but I'm back to catch up on the episodes and coffees. Thank you so much. And then another generous contribution from Annie, and your comment there goes, this is long overdue given the fact that I live for the podcast. Thank you so much for the generous coffees. And then last but not least, DD Stars. Thank you again for your generous contribution. And your comment there reads, for the podcast we've grown to love, Waste of Sin bonus. We need more. If you'd like to support the podcast in a similar way, please head over to www.buymeacoffee.com/feeling station and give as your spirit leads. Remember, there's nothing that is too small to support the podcast that you've grown to love. With that out of the way, let's go straight into this weekend's episode.
Is that a breakup? I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Hello.
Yo, that was a very weak hello. You must have had a tired beginning to the week. What is happening?
My tired is tired.
Oh, your tired is tired, yeah?
My tired is tired.
Welcome to the Feeling Station.
Thank you for having me.
For those who are listening to the podcast for the first time, it's a romantic family and friendship breakup podcast showcasing stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give lessons from their experiences. Now, I hope you find today's story entertaining, but more importantly, meaningful. And this podcast is popular for two main reasons. The first being I do my best to keep my guests anonymous, which brings me to the fun part, for me at least. The part where I give you the name you're going to use for the duration of this episode. Are you ready?
Yeah, bo.
So, your name is from Southern Africa, and I think it's really common in South Africa and Botswana, and your name is Puleng, which is P-U.
Puleng.
Hey, you even said it better than I did. Say it one more time for me. Say it one more time.
Puleng.
Hey, Puleng. And that means, hey, the meaning is a bit boring. In the rain. You know, like...
It's beautiful.
In the rain, Nje. The meaning.
Yeah, like rain is great in Sesotho, Setswana, so it's a blessing. It's Puleng.
Oh.
Yeah, bo.
You learn something new every day. Thanks for that. So your name is Puleng. And what are you calling the name of the guy that you're going to talk about?
We can call him Khomotso.
Right. Is that Gomotso?
Yes.
Yay! Wicked. Khomotso. And Puleng. And is there a specific reason why you chose that name?
No, it's just what came up.
Yeah?
It's just really what came up, yeah.
Cool. And the second reason the podcast is doing great is there real life lessons that people are going to learn from the story you're going to share today. So, what would you like people to learn from your breakup?
Well, my first lesson is sometimes love is not enough.
Oh, yeah. You can say that again. Sometimes
it's
love
not
is
enough.
not enough.
And if someone doesn't want your love or find it enough, accept that.
Ooh.
And it's not what they need. It's okay.
Hey.
Right?
Are you keeping that as one lesson or that's two separate ones?
Oh, that's on one lesson.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm.
And then my second lesson is if someone shows you their true colors, believe them.
Yeah, you can say that again.
Believe them.
Best believe them.
Believe them. Yes.
Nice. Have you got a third?
You're enough.
Oh, nice.
You're enough.
Hey, people say this all the time, but I don't know, validating that for yourself is one of the most difficult things to do because we tend to be very conservative, very humble about who we are. Yeah. And just accepting that we're enough sometimes is just a little difficult, but that's an important lesson. Thanks for shouting that out. Have you got a fourth one?
No, that's just about it.
Perfect. So I'll play them back before we get straight into your Guan with Khomotso. And it says, sometimes love is not enough. If somebody doesn't want your love, accept it. Just accept it's not what you need. And then lesson number 2, if someone shows you their true colors, believe them. And last but not least, you are enough. So, Puleng, let's get straight into this. Where did you meet Khomotso and why did you decide this is the guy who I'm going to say yes to?
So, right. Komotso, aka KG.
Okay,
I met
KG, yeah?
him. Yeah.
Good.
I met him when I was in my final year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
We were friends. It was a very funny meetup. You know, I was chilling with a friend, and then we bumped into his friend, who's KG. And this guy literally just jumped onto me and he's like, "Hi, can I get your number?" He was just like such a vibe, and I was just so shook. Yeah, that's how it was. And you know, like I just found myself giving him my number, and we started to vibe, chatting, and you know, hanging out. So, mind you, when I met this guy, I was, like I said, end of high school, towards the end of high school.
Yeah.
That must have been lower six. Yeah, lower six, upper six, thereabout. And I was one of those very independent and very focused little girls. You know, there's nothing you could tell me in your school. You know, I was focused. I was prepping for my future. I knew that next year I have to get this, and after that I need to be at college, and this I had it all worked out. That was then so I met this guy, and he would fit right into those plans well. All right, because we did a lot of planning together. The vibe was great. He was a professional, by the way, at that point.
What does that mean when you say professional?
He was already working.
So
2 years, yeah.
So if you're in lower six, you're about 17?
18, yeah, must have been 18, yeah.
So you were 18 and you say he was a professional. So how professional was he? Like how many years had he been working?
Well, he had been working, I think, a year in already, year or two at most in, because immediately after he finished his high school, he had the opportunity to go and work. So he was already working and at school. Yeah.
Right, gotcha.
But yeah. So I was already a professional. I was the one at school. So we had, started planning a lot of things together. Like he was a very motivational guy. Like he really, he could really fit into my plans. Right. He's a professional. I've got this goal. I see us as, power couple. When I'm done with school, we're going to get married. Yay! We're going to have kids. It was perfect. It was perfect. And, to be honest, we were, for the people who did know us in our local city, we were goals. People knew that there's Puleng, there's KG, they are the things that are making the pots to happen. Hey. Yeah, no, well and good.
Yeah.
So we continue. And then I go to college. I went to college in another city. But I made sure that every weekend I was home. It wasn't too far from my hometown. So every weekend I could afford to be at home. So that's just how we used to, and really there was no problem. No problem. So now I finished my college, right? We didn't have any major hassles, finished my college. And by the time I finished my first degree, I knew that immediately I wanted to go do my master's.
Okay.
And I had started looking around for the best institutions in SADC, in the SADC region, to do my master's. And I was like, which country? I'm not going to say the country because it becomes so obvious.
Yeah.
But I'll claim that we went to Zambia.
Okay.
Zambia had a great program for the course that I was studying that I wanted to further in. And so I told him that, hey, look, dude, I would like to further my studies because I want to focus on academia. And Zambia seems to be the best place to be.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, that's interesting. You remember there was a time I went to Zambia for secondment. So he managed to get seconded in Zambia during the course of our relationship for like 6 months. So he knew Zambia as well. So I'm like, oh, okay. So since you've been there, I mean, let's take us there. Let's go build something there because where we were at the time, things were just not good.
Yeah.
The country was just not, So at first it was, a back and forth about it because I guess he wasn't so comfortable leaving the country, but he saw that, look, there's need to leave. And so, well, like, eventually he agreed. He's like, okay, let's give this a go.
Mm-hmm.
So he went first to Zambia. And I followed he went in like April, and then I followed in August because that's when the semester would start.
So this whole while, you guys were doing this as boyfriend and girlfriend.
We're doing this as boyfriend and girlfriend.
Mad. How long had you guys been together by that point?
This is 3 years plus. So at that point, we're already on the 5-year mark.
5-year mark?
Yes, we're already on the 5-year mark.
Wow.
So, hey, Ganti, that was us moving to Zambia would be the beginning of our wahala.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Were you
Were
you guys planning to move there and live together, or move there and live in separate places?
Well, being the good Christian girl that I was, we were moving there. I would be on campus. He would be at his place. We'd just continue, but just in a foreign country as we were, back home. Right?
Mm.
So we went, and like I said, he went first. I followed in August, and I was staying at campus while he got accommodation from the company that he was working at.
Yeah.
So the company housed him, and it was like a boys' hostel, of which that wasn't his kind of vibe, right? So when I got there, I was staying, like I said, on campus, a basic nice room with a single bed, desk, all that wahala. And so when I got there, we spent so much time together, such that my classes would be in the evening. When he knocks off from work, he would come. He usually used to knock off quite late, so he'd get to my apartment at about 8 or so, just after I've knocked off. I'd make dinner, we'd chit chat the night away. And mind you, this is during the week. And he'd leave, sometimes would fall asleep on those single beds. The single bed, please, is very significant.
Okay.
So,
Noted.
Would fall asleep, and then he'd wake up at 2 in the morning and be like, dude, it's 2, and I need to show up for work tomorrow. And then he'd call the work, there was a cab arrangement that they had at work, which would pick him up and take him to work, to his place, and then as well. So this is what would happen every single day without fail. It was just the two of us, starting from the bottom.
Were you guys intimate with each other?
At that point, I was still a virgin, a late bloomer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now, like I said, when eventually we're now sharing the single bed together, that's where the fireworks happen.
You see, that's why I'm asking the question, because single beds are usually quite small, and you have 2 humans in there. You are literally as skin to skin can get.
Absolutely. So yes, eventually we did get intimate, and that was, I guess, the beginning of the whole intimacy, sexual relations in our relationship. Everything was quite Christian before. So anyway, we started from the bottom. Eventually we got a place.
No pun intended, yeah.
None. we got a place. I remember we even at some point would sit on the floor.
Yeah.
All that wahala. Literally, like I said, started from the bottom, going up. Now, in all of this, I was still a student, and I started to feel the burden of, he's shouldering a lot of the financial burden than I am. I was a student. I wasn't working. I depended on my parents and him. And he was doing the rentals, everything, the whole shangbang. So it started to, make me feel bad. But he still continued to do that. He was a really amazing guy, KG. He was very amazing. So now at this time again, I started to wonder, okay, right. We are half living together. We're already screwing. We are together in this country. We're making things happen. There's no problem really. Why are we not getting married? Why is the man's not talking about marriage?
Okay.
Now you Kanti, that was the second stage of problems. All right. Mind you, like we didn't have any hectic problems before that, but now this is the beginning of all that shakara. So now I kind of did start to bring up the issue of marriage. Like, hey, look, our parents know we're here. Everyone knows we're here. We're doing this. We're doing that. Ganti is like, why are we not talking about the next stage in our relationship? And yeah, Men's is like he's not ready.
Okay.
Men's is like he's not ready. Now, that like is lesson 2. I should have listened. All right. So I should have listened. But as a 20-something at that point, I just couldn't understand that you're getting the cow and you're getting the milk, the cow, everything. But you don't want to buy it.
Right.
Come on. You know, I felt like there was a bit of usage there. And come on. I mean, it's just, officializing things. So, anyway, things started to get thick between the two of us, and I would get really emotional at some point, watching things like Our Perfect Wedding and attending weddings. Our friends are getting married, and here we are. We're just there, and like I said, as a Christian girl, I felt bad also living, with a guy, and our parents didn't know that we're living together. They just knew we're in the same country. So I felt bad, and I got really emotional about that, and I would raise it here and there, and yeah. So I then thought, maybe this guy is not marrying me because I'm not working.
Oh,
right. I thought that okay, maybe it's the finances. Not that they were bad, but it would have been nice to also show as a woman that you can, shoulder your, earn your keep, kind of now that you're doing something. So I started my own company there in Zambia. So I started my own company. It wasn't bringing in tons of money, but it was bringing in some decent amount. I wouldn't bother him for things like groceries. I wouldn't bother him for anything. I'd actually contribute to, our household expenses. And so now at this point, not only am I at school, I'm doing my master's, I'm an entrepreneur, working late hours, and I'm a house girlfriend.
Nice.
All right?
Yeah.
So, but still, guys, is not moving. I'm thinking, but what kind? So eventually I started to get depressed. I did start to get depressed. Like I felt like I wasn't worth it. I suppose that was causing a problem of its own, because now even my ability to be all sexual and romantic was on an all-time low.
And all of this is founded on the fact that he hasn't asked you to be his wife yet.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So eventually, with time and talking to, your friends and stuff, I ended up just accepting that, look, this isn't happening. And obviously would have these conversations a lot. And eventually I just said, no, I can't really force you to be married to me. So let me settle for what I constantly refer to as an everlasting relationship.
Which
right?
was you guys being lifelong boyfriend and girlfriend?
Just being that. Of which, that was really also moving me from my comfort zone, because I came from a typical Christian family, and how do you explain all of that? And I'd always done everything by the book. So I thought that this would be one of them, but Nancy Yala. But anyway, so somehow men started to get pressure, because I said, I'm just accepting that this is what it is. I guess maybe he would also have conversations with his friends or something, and his friends would be like, dude, but there's nothing wrong. I mean, Sonken's chadile. And he started to feel that pressure. And, he'd talk about it. But you can tell when a guy is like forcing a certain thing because he loves you. So
explain. Did you say you can tell when a guy is forcing something because he loves you?
Yeah, you like when someone loves you, they can kind of do things, to make you happy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it makes them happy.
Okay, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think he then started to feel that pressure, and I would constantly tell him that no, look, mens, you don't need to do something nxa ungekho ready, because I'd always liken it to, when we're growing up, we'd put mangoes inside inside a mealie meal so that
Yeah. It ripens, yeah.
so it ripens quite quick. But now the person who'd be affected by that is the person who eats it because it was too watery or not sweet at all.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I would say that if you force yourself to marry me, you will be very bitter and you'd probably be a danger to me. You'd be a danger to us. You'd just be unhappy. You'd be miserable. Right?
Yes.
We had this conversation so many times. So anyway, it continued being a gray area in Dabaye marriage. But anyway, the bitterness just continued to continue. It just continued. So in July of 2018, Men's planned a couples outing with two of our friends, another couple who were also in Zambia, at a resort in South Africa. Gandhi Men's was proposing.
Oh, okay.
So Men's eventually proposed, right?
Yeah,
it was a beautiful proposal, very beautiful. It was perfect. I was happy. I was nervous. It was just beautiful. But I should have been more aware that he was not okay. I should have seen that.
So what did you not see? What did you miss?
I missed that it was not what he wanted at the time, or it was generally not what he wanted, and he was purely doing it for me.
So how was the proposal?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was at a resort in South Africa. The ring, oh my God, guys, the ring was live. Yeah. It was at a restaurant, and you've got all these people, clap hands, the whole works, the TV, wahala, all that. That's what happened. But now when we got back home, that's where back to Zambia, that's when we started discussing plans, telling our families, engaging who mang limang about WhatsApp, right? And that was also when the issue of premarital counseling came up. For me, that was a really big deal. I'd always seen people do it. I viewed it as very important, but he may not have viewed it the same. As well as the church conversation.
What conversation was that?
Which church are we going to?
Did you guys go to a different church?
Yeah. I don't know if I can mention this, but I was Adventist. He'd go to another Pentecostal church.
So why wasn't that a topic of conversation beforehand anyway?
Because not that it wasn't, but it wasn't a big deal. Sometimes he'd come to my church, sometimes I'd go to his church, and we're just fine with that.
So why not continue? Just that. Now that you're husband and wife.
There's always this expectation that the wife has to leave her church and obviously go to his. And I didn't mind doing that at all because I had been to their church and it was fine.
So why was it an issue for discussion?
Now it became an issue because when we went to see the church pastor of that particular church in Zambia, he was very ruthless in highlighting that I came from a cult, like a cultic church.
Cultic church?
Yes, I'm from a cult. It'll never work out. He really had a lot to say about us and how it's just not work out.
How true was what he said?
To be honest, I think it was quite far-fetched because I don't think Adventists are cults.
Okay.
And he kind of had the same thing, but it kind of made me feel some type of way now about moving to that particular church, if that's how they felt about us. But anyway, the premarital counseling was the one that was the most hectic issue because he didn't see the importance of, especially considering that there was already existing bitterness over the fact that we weren't married, like that whole issue, that the marriage issue before. Yeah. So, yeah. So Men's was not interested in premarital counseling, and the whole church issue, etc. And at some point during this time now, Men started to change for me. Guys started to change. He was now the miserable one. Like he was now, he was disgusted at me. He just didn't want to see me. Like you can tell the face of disgust.
Ish.
Right? So now it got to a point when he would come home from work at around maybe 7 and walk past me by the door. Like would stay in a multi-res complex. And so when you hear the hooter for your apartment, you press the thing, and I would open the door when he'd park by the door. And when your woman is opening the door for you, you want to get his jacket, get his laptop bag, kiss him, hey, how was your day? Men's would come, drop his laptop bag by my feet, spoof by me by the door, and go to the bedroom and be on his phone. So I was like, okay, and then?
How long after the proposal was this? Months?
This was, the proposal happened in July, and our lobola was going to be in December. And so this started to happen in between July and December. So I think maybe about 2-3 months into it. Because, you could tell, like, this man is under pressure. But is it work? No. What is it? But anyway, now you'd call him for, like, when he comes, you go call him for dinner. Like, hey, babe, I made dinner. Do you want to bath first? Do you want to freshen up, or should I dish for you? And he's like, you can dish for me. You go and dish. Man comes 2 hours later to come and eat. So, yeah. It was now getting hectic. So I remember at that point I started to pray and fast, for God's intervention. But hey, it's a good tense. So anyway, December 30 came to pay lobola. And I was happy, guys. Any woman would be. But in hindsight, I'll constantly keep saying that, I'm realizing now that guy was just not happy.
So it's not like you started noticing his unhappiness in December. You saw it in, say, September, October time.
Yes.
So when you'd ask him what's wrong, what would he say?
He would be like, no, work pressure, planning. Like, here's why Mbaleli's colors edges. It was just never straightforward, right? And then Lako would now start to have, very senseless disagreements,
Over small things?
Over very small things. That becomes a whole new story.
So
right?
So church counseling would normally tell you that you guys will have disputes. There might be points when either one of you are not happy, but at least try and make time for each other and be honest and tell each other what's really wrong, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So you are noticing something that may have been spoken about at the counseling sessions.
Yes.
Why did you not dig deeper?
He didn't want to hear anything about this premarital counseling, or he would just agree and then be like at the 11th hour, changes up.
Okay, so forget the premarital counseling. If you can really tell something is not right with someone and they tell you it's work pressure, I would turn around and say, yeah, I think it's work pressure, but, I feel there's something more. What's up, babe? What's really going on?
Now, the problem is when you do that, like when you start digging, you would end up getting a side of him that was really nasty. It would go up into a fight, into a much bigger fight than was intended. Right. And so many times I really tried to avoid that. And when I would also consult the friend of mine who was there for the engagement, since she was married, she'd always recommend that, no, these guys, just be their peace. I heard that a lot. Be his peace.
What does that mean?
It means don't bring up issues. Just try and, when he comes home, take his jacket, give him food. Don't ask any dumb questions. Just be his peace. So it meant you sacrifice what you'd want to talk about so that you don't bring up issues.
That is weird, man. That you become somebody's peace, but then you're becoming your own warfare.
Exactly. And I had a major warfare going on within me at that point, right? Because, like, I would die, but you just never understand. You're just trying to constantly put this person first, his needs, his happiness, his like his peace of mind. That's what that's really what I prioritize. And to be honest, when in hindsight, I would say that purely out of love, the love that I did have for him, I would really put him first.
So you mentioned
All
that you
right?
would pray, right?
I did, yes.
And I don't want to derail you too much because it's really good to default to your source of spiritual support when you need it. So what was
Yeah.
your prayer? What would you say to God?
I would ask God to just take away all, those hindrances, all the issues that, like, konoko kumstresayo at work. I remember I would even, when he would leave the house, or even while maybe, trying to sort out his suits and whatever he's going to work, I would make a prayer that, whatever battles he's facing, outside as he walks out of this door, Lord, protect him, be with him, be his peace, I would always make those kind of prayers. And then I would pray for the home. I'd pray for peace in the home. I'd pray for happiness. I'd pray for love. That was, what I would pray for,
Okay.
So anyway, New Year, like, Lobola was paid on the 30th of December. I was happy. And like I said, in hindsight, I realized that he wasn't. And on New Year's Eve, like, I remember the contents I don't really remember, but I remember that we had a serious fallout. So this is like 24 hours after Lobola and we're already fighting.
Eish.
And he's mad. Like, he's mad. So we were at this, the whole countdown thing that happens. We were in a hometown at that point. And so we had gone out for the countdowns. And I even said to him, I remember saying to him, dude, it's New Year's. We can't afford to be upset with each other. Let's be happy and start the year off, on a good footing. Oh, he didn't give two shits. Excuse my French. He was mad. So I couldn't really tell why. I know it was something small. That's how, unimportant it must have been at that point, because he just flared up, right? So anyway, that passed, and things just got worse when we got back to Zambia. Things just got worse. And so, anyway, like I said, things got worse. And at that time, by the way, I'm still a student. So I had applied for an extension of permit for Zambia. And I'd only applied for 6 months. And, by God's grace, I got 4 years extension. And so when I got that extension, I thought, you'd be happy that, because his permit was still quite long because he was employed there. Mine was, constantly cutting shorter bits. And so I remember I went to pick him up from work that evening with the good news that my permit had been extended and there was no need for us to worry about me being back in our home country, etc. Because that was also quite an unsettling thing for me. So I remember telling him, like, that evening, that, hey, dude, guess what? My permit's just been extended. That man's is like, yeah, no, sharp.
Hey.
Like, ooh, okay. And so it was that evening when things went bad. He was just grumpy. He was pissed off. When someone is under pressure, but and is not telling you what the problem is, eventually anything just sets you off. And I just felt like he was quite set off by a number of things. And so the next day he went to work and he sent me a message, saying we need to talk. And then, 5 o'clock in Chilenzim. And eventually he came home very early that day, threw his bag on the floor.
Hey.
And he said, I don't think I can do this anymore.
And this was how long after Lobola?
This was 3 months in. This was in April. Yes. Yeah. This was in April, just after my birthday.
Hey. Did you get anything for your birthday, by the way? What did he get you?
I've forgotten what I got that time, but I know he did get me something.
And when
He
you say just
did.
after, are we talking a few weeks after, a few days after your birthday?
Maybe a week or so after.
I.
Yeah. The guy was really tried. He tried his best to bottle in whatever he was feeling.
Yeah.
So he's like, I can't do this anymore. And, he sat on the ground and he held his hands over his head. And he's like, I can't do this anymore. And I could tell that I.
Yeah.
And so I called my sister to come and pick me up. And my sister came with her husband because they also were in the country. She came with her husband, and her husband sat with my ex-fiance and said to him, Naim Kwasha, what did my wife, in the Shona culture, I'm his wife as well. What did my wife do to you? Did you find her in bed with another man? He's like, no. Doesn't she cook? She doesn't clean. Is there something wrong? He's like, no, no, nothing. We've just got problems. And he's like, but what kind of problems that you're not, able to tell me? So anyway, I just said, no, let's just, give the guy his home. And as I was packing my belongings from the home, he said to me, while he was sitting on the floor, he's like, do you think I would have made a good husband? And I responded to him and I said, I think you'd have made an amazing husband. But it is well. All right. I packed my things and I got into the car and I went. And at that point, I needed my family. So I came back home. When I came back home, there was no contact. Not even the family sat down. I basically came home, just came home. No one brought me home. No one traditionally brought me home, nothing. So anyway, 2018, not 2018, that 2019, I went back to graduate, right? And I was miserable as hell because that was the country that broke me. And he was still there at the time. And I couldn't talk to him. So I graduated. And then, time and time again, he would send messages, hey, congratulations on your graduation, etc. And I'll just be like, thank you. There was no effort made towards anything, really. And I came back home after graduation and started working. That was 2019. So towards the end of 2019, that was when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm now back in Zim and, and I'm an essential worker, so I'm still all over the place. I'm working while others are at home. And in that period, towards the end of 2019, towards 2020, during 2019, he would contact me, right? Here and there, hi, just checking on you. Are you well? Whatever, fine. Then 2019, end of 2019 towards 2020, that's when end of 2020 towards the end. That's when he was more serious in contacting me.
And what would he be saying?
It'll be, hey, hi, are you well? Yeah. And then eventually, I think maybe the time when he was, at home, he would just, I guess took time to think or whatever. And so that was 2020, right? So, sorry, my dates get quite mixed up with this whole COVID wahala. But anyway, some December in 2020, that's when we're talking more, November, December, and he's like, no, I'm coming home in in December. Maybe we could meet up. And he did come. And and I'm such a genius. I let him.
Okay.
And things happened.
What do you mean?
He came to my apartment. And because we had already been talking for two or so months. One thing led to the other, and exactly. And we kind of got back together. Now, unfortunately, I think I got too excited And I recommitted to someone who wasn't committed to me, who was just trying to see if they really were sure about their choice to leave.
But what signals gave you the impression you guys were back together?
We spoke. I asked him. I remember asking him, "Are you back? Are you here?" And he's like, "Yes, I'm here." And he's like, "Maybe we could try again." I remember even at some point jeopardizing my school and work to travel back to Zambia because, like I said, borders were closed, but I was still able to travel.
Yeah.
So I would, do those long drives to go to him in Zambia. We were together for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And now when we then got back together, okay, so we actually did get back together. And I never discussed this with anyone because I felt like such a fool for doing that, especially not knowing why I was left in the first place. Right. So I went back to Zambia. And when we were there, a lot of conversation was had. He actually suggested that we go for counseling. He was the one who suggested we go for counseling. Yeah. And we went for one session. Now, in sessions, they'll tell you, hold her hand, look into her eyes. Hell, I looked into his eyes and I saw that this guy is really trying his best to love me, but he does not love me anymore.
Really?
Yes. You could tell that holding my hand for him was just a misery. You could tell that he was just miserable with me. But anyway, he continued trying his best. Right? And I remember he even asked me, was I ever intimate with anyone? And to be honest, I wasn't in the period when we were apart. I was not intimate with anyone. I didn't have, the need to be intimate with anyone. My friends tried to hook me up here and there. I did meet a few people, but, we never get to that intimacy stage.
Yeah.
And he then would actually say things like, but the way you are doing things in the bedroom shows that you're intimate. And I'm like,
Puleng, you're making it rain in the bedroom.
Yeah, dude. Now, when I'm explaining to him that no, it's not that. This sounds so wrong, but I did get a whole new set of friends who are more outgoing, who are more open to discussing issues of sexuality, intimacy. Yeah. And at that point, when I got to see other women and their views on intimacy, I got, I became closer to myself and more, I wanted to learn more about my body because, mind you, like I said, he was the only guy that I knew, right? And so I didn't know anything about squirting. I didn't know anything about touching yourself. I never explored my own body. And my friends taught me that, you need to adjust yourself, learn yourself, touch yourself, do this, do that, watch this, see this. And sometimes, as girls, you know what girls do when they're together. Yeah, but anyway. So I think when I then got the guy that I loved, because I loved him, to be honest with you, I did all of that wahala with him. And he's like, nope, you must have been sleeping with someone. He's like, you must have been screwing around. And like, yo, but anyway. And then he even was like, I remember at some point I would get a call from another guy while he was there and he would be upset. And then I also asked him, were you celibate at the time, during the time we were away? We were apart, sorry. And he's like, no, I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
And to be honest, that kind of messed me up. But what messed me up more is seeing it with my own eyes.
What did you see?
There was a phone I was given, and when I opened it, it had a lot of pictures. It had a lot of videos. Oh, yeah. Very detailed. Wahala.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, I didn't want to take that because I thought, hey, we're starting on a fresh page. It is what it is. All right. So, eventually you could just tell that this guy was just trying too hard to be with me, and he just genuinely didn't want to be with me. And at some point he was so disgusted with me. Like, he'd actually tell me things like, I can't even look at you. And at some point I remember, he said to me a statement that today I won't lie, still breaks me. He just said, "You will heal." Yeah. The person who broke you has told you that you will heal. But anyway, the breakdown of everything for me came when on a trip back from Zambia, where I had driven to Zambia to go be with him. Like, it was the second trip.
Yeah.
And him and his brothers had organized money to buy their parents groceries to send back to our home country for their parents. And so things were obviously a bit cheaper in Zambia. And so because I was there, it would be cheaper, even more cheaper, to have me carry those groceries and take them to his parents. All right? So, by the way, at that point, he was also hiding the fact, we were both hiding the fact that we were together or were trying our shakara. And then, fine, they bought the groceries and then put it in my car. And I asked him, are you going to send someone to pick these groceries up? Or am I going to go deliver? What are we doing exactly with these? And he's like, he actually said, since you and my mom still talked, even when we're apart, you guys will figure it out. I'm like, okay, no, that's cool. That's fine. So when I was going back, I took the groceries with me. And now, unfortunately, because I left the country late, I got to our home country late-ish. And unfortunately, again, where I stay is like I stay upstairs at some flats, and there's a lot of theft that takes place there. Now I couldn't afford to carry all that wahala upstairs because it was quite heavy. Neither could I leave it in the car, because definitely maybe I share the windows and take the groceries, because it wasn't a safe neighborhood. And so I took those, I ended up calling his mom and I said, "Hi, Ma, how are you? I've just got some groceries I'd like to deliver to you. Sorry to call you this late, but it's just not really safe for me to keep them." She's like, "No problem, Tanami, bring them over." I take them, and they didn't even ask me what I was doing in Zambia. They just, "Oh, no, how was your trip? Good, sharp." I gave them and I went back to my apartment. And when I tried to communicate with him that, no, I have to deliver these groceries because of XYZ, I didn't have data at the time. So I had to wait till I got onto Wi-Fi. And then when I got home, didn't I just get shouted at? "How dare you take those groceries to my parents? Ungihambela phambili. I wasn't ready for my parents to know that I'm with you." He gave me a tongue lashing of a lifetime, And yeah, that really messed me up. So I remember that time I really begged him to stay. I really, tried to say, "Let's work on us, let's do this." But guys, Men's was just not, there. So in the end, I just told him that, "Look, I love you, but I can tell you're really disgusted with me for some reason best known to you. So I'd rather leave you to be happy." And that was it. And I just prayed to the Lord, "Hey, take this pain away," because it was just, hard. So not only did this, it was a lot. So yeah, buying shopping on paper 2. And yeah.
I'd forgotten about those things, man. You'll have maths paper 1 and then maths paper 2.
Then paper 2.
So this felt like relationship paper 2.
Yeah.
And they hit you hard with it.
Hard, bro. Hard. So yeah. That's the long and the short of what happened.
Out of curiosity, what was it really with this guy that he was unhappy about? It just feels like a big hole. What was...
You know what?
What was
from
it?
what I heard, because, the relatives, everyone was so confused because this person came and paid Lobola.
Yeah.
All right? And his aunt at some point came to me and is like, "You know what? We sat him down. We asked him, what did Puleng do to you exactly? Please, can you tell us? Right? Is she screwing someone? No, she didn't do anything." she's doing everything right. She cooks, she cleans, she prays, she does everything. There's nothing wrong with her. We're just not compatible. That's what he said to them. You see that
Yeah.
No, everyone was like that for a while. Everyone was like that. We don't know. We just don't know.
Is he with
But
someone
maybe-
now?
I don't know.
Is he still in Zambia?
I don't know.
Hey, you've really lost contact, eh?
I realized that if I didn't do that, I would really lose my mind. And so I'd also read a lot about narcissistic personality disorder, which I was at some point in paper 2 accused of having, right? But, in all honesty, when I read about it, I realized that no, there's the whole love bombing. They dispose of you eventually. And the best way to deal with it is kind of just stay clear, just, no contact. And I think it's better that way.
Yeah, and it sounds like it has helped you, hasn't it?
To some extent, it has.
So how long has it been?
Quite the extent. It's been since paper 2 or paper 1.
Yeah, since paper 2.
Since paper 2 is quite fresh. It was 2020.
Yeah.
It's not 2021. It's quite fresh. No, it was 2020. Yeah.
I really, yeah. I don't know. Look, it might just be a case where he just wasn't into it from the get-go, and he didn't know how to say no.
Yeah. I feel like I should have known better.
Yeah.
And that's why my lesson too is, when someone tells you, just believe them. Shows you their true colors.
Yeah.
Just believe them.
Yeah. And in fact, I'll just play back those lessons just whilst I wrap this up. The first one up, you say sometimes love is not enough. You were really into this guy, but there was something lacking to make you guys hold water. I really can't tell what it is, but something was really lacking, especially on his part. He just feels like he was living two very different lives, and he struggled keeping the one that he had with you afloat. That's just what it feels like.
Well, I suppose so.
Yeah. And then number 2, if someone shows you their true colors, believe them. He said he wasn't ready for marriage. He meant what he said.
And he meant it, yeah.
And he tried to do it for love, to say, okay, if I really love my person enough, why did I do this for them? But now he wasn't being true to himself. And you felt it. Until he eventually just lashed out and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm just not into it.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, you are enough. Now I see how that really plays out, because, this feels like a form of rejection. And sometimes rejection is better when you know what the reason for rejection is.
Yeah.
When you don't
that
have,
is true.
When you don't have it, if I was in your situation, I'd sit down and really just ask myself 1,000,001 times, but why?
I know I did.
And then every other encounter I may have, whether it's on a date and somebody isn't really connecting or engaging, I start asking myself, oh, is this why it didn't work out with KG? Just so many questions. I don't know how you're coping with all of this, man. But from the way that you've narrated the story, you sound like you're doing good.
I have to. There's no one coming. There's nobody coming.
Mad. Well, thanks, Puleng, for that incredible story. You guys have been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I look forward to catching you in next weekend's episode. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling.
Satis on Daro Raini and Chake Zain.
Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over.
Satis on Daro Raini and Chake Zain.
Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.
Kujidziro amai. Love is a fire.
Urudoi motoru noto kujidziro amai.